Lots to discuss this weekend. Welcome to another episode of the HSP podcast. We're going to wrap up this whole entire weekend of pro wrestling. We're going to match you right now. What is up, guys? High Spot Podcast. HSP, the Trendsetter, is here with us, and I am Jeff Martin, your host. Make sure you follow us on all our social media at High Spot Podcast, and make sure you give us a like here on the Give Us a Shot Network, the home of HSP. So lots to discuss, Trendsetter, and I usually start off with what do you want to talk about, but there's a whole lot to discuss. What's going on?
What's going on, man? Yeah, we know what we want to talk about now. There's not even a question there in terms of everything that's going on, wrapping up this weekend, leading to the next one. Monday Night Raw being the thing that kicks off next week, but excited about it, man. Never stops, and if it was, we'd be out of a job.
So let's hope that the action keeps going, and a lot to discuss the weekend, man. So that's why we're gonna wrap it up here in a nice little bow for you guys. So against, of course, Monday night is coming up right before we can even take a breath. Raw will be here, and it'll kick things off with Mommy. Rhea Ripley will kick it off on Monday Night Raw. So excited to see what happens. We discussed about her coming back on our last episode, and it's going to be really interesting. We talked about how it's going to be must watch and see what happens. What's the dynamic between Dominic, Liv, and Rhea Ripley? And let's get into this, though, Trendsetter, because a lot of this has to do with the weekend. The weekend, they were in Mexico City, and Liv Morgan is still with Dom. So she is still with Dominic Mysterio, and that's crazy. The fans love it. They actually were cheering Liv when she came out, and Dom got a little bit of the cheers as well, too. So who would have thought if anyone could cause Dominic Mysterio to get cheers, it's Liv. But that's a weird dynamic heading into Monday night that Liv and Dom are still together. So it makes it even more must-watch coming up on Raw.
Well, there's no, to me, surprise when it comes to them being overseas in Mexico City. I've told you before too, Jeff. I don't know if it'll be debatable when I make up this mention here, but I think when you look at the chemistry between Liv and Dominic, to me, I think it's, even though it's its early stages right now, I think it's more successful and it's more natural than the dynamic that Mommy, Rhea Ripley, and Dominic had before in the beginning. Not to take away from the importance of Rhea Ripley's character, Mommy, and how that kind of built and elevated Dominic Mysterio to what he is now in terms of Dirty Dom. But I think what's going on with him and Liv right now, I think more people are interested in that than they ever were with Mommy coming back. So now that Mommy is back, it's pretty interesting, though. But again, we'll talk about it. It's just like, it just seems that everything Dom ever wanted in terms of people just looking out for him, Liv has provided that for him. When you look at Damian Priest and Mommy, they really haven't been there for him, too. So it's interesting to see where it falls in terms of the Judgment Day and these three in this little love triangle we have.
Most definitely. They're in Mexico, so it's just across the border. And so that is an exciting time for WWE when they're always in Mexico. Obviously, the crowd going nuts for WWE action, too, as well. And again, WWE is just hot right now. And so a sold-out weekend for WWE in Mexico, so good for them as they head into Monday night. And we're talking about the Rhea Ripley love triangle that you just talked about. You said the love triangle, and it's just a difference in relationship because Dominic obviously is the more dominant here. He's obviously has Liv basically wrapped around his finger, as it was Mommy Rhea Ripley who had Dom. So Dom was more of the submissive guy, right? As we talk about in your category, in your field, Trendsetter. So it's a weird dynamic. It's what Dominic, what does he want, right? So obviously he seems like this is not going to help him at all heading into Monday night, still having Liv Morgan there. And obviously she's playing her role well. And we discussed about it too, how this has probably been the best thing that could happen to Liv, because had Rhea maybe still been in the fold and not gotten hurt, maybe it would have been a different dynamic with Liv, but she seems to have embraced this. This seems to be what's elevated her into another level as far as a character on Raw, and it just elevated her women's title run. So it's going to be interesting to see if Rhea is cleared for SummerSlam, and if we're going to get this match, and just exactly, it's going to be funny because usually it's two guys fighting over a girl, and it's going to be funny to see if at SummerSlam it's two women fighting over Dominic Mysterio. So that's also going to be an interesting thing to see what happens. And also, too, one more thing, too, is before we get to anything else, the whole dynamic of everyone pulling for Rhea, not seeing Liv's side, I was able to see the footage of Rhea taking Liv out for all that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at it, and I was like, can you really blame Liv?
No.
Liv really that much of a? Wouldn't you do the same thing? Wouldn't you seek out revenge? If you obviously if you're in WWE, of course, she sidelined your career for several months, and why wouldn't this be the only remedy possible? Having a revenge tour and taking Rhea out and everything that she has. I mean, it just makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. It also allows us to, us, the audience, us discussing it, understand where Liv is coming from. This isn't just something that happened out of the blue and you could think, oh, her mind is warped. She's confused. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Maybe she had a mental breakdown. Not really. Rhea Ripley took her out of commission for almost over 6 months. She wanted revenge. She wanted to get back at the person that did that to her. Which, by the way, Jeff, a person who showed no remorse in what she did to Liv Morgan, right? Now she's coming back, did the exact same thing to Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley has the audacity to go on television and say, "You couldn't face me up front from behind. You had to get me on the side or get me from behind and attack me." Well, I'm sorry, Rhea, but didn't mommy do the exact same thing to Liv Morgan, someone that's less than twice your size? So again, hypocrisy to the utmost. But again, that's the amazing thing in these characters, because you see when one side does it, it's horrible. But because Rhea Ripley has become such a popular and polarizing in the sense that they just love her no matter what she does, it's become to the point where it's reversed. And so now everything she's done, people, the fans, are overlooking and are turning on Liv because, oh well, Liv, you need to move on. I mean, this is similar to the dynamic, and I know we'll talk about it, about what's going on with Drew McIntyre. It's like it's amazing how people quickly forget. They love Rhea Ripley. It's the scenario where, hey, they quickly forget and they move on past it, but Liv has every right to feel the way she does. And if it was in anyone else's situation, they would do the exact same thing. Why not take everything away from the person that almost took it away from you? So I'm on Liv's side on this, and I love it to the point that you just made. It looks like she's coming into her own. This probably wouldn't be happening. We wouldn't be talking about this too if Rhea didn't actually was legitimately injured and was out for a while. We probably don't get this dynamic that we're getting now, which to me is, if you want to talk about storylines, you want to talk about character development, you want to talk about just something that's intriguing, it checks all the boxes for the list here.
It really does. So there's going to be people taking Rhea's side, people taking Liv's side, even Dominic's side, because like you mentioned when we opened it up, who's been there for him right now? While mommy hasn't even had contact with Dom, right? Has the only person she's talked to is her good friend Damian Priest, and Damian Priest hid this news from Dom, kind of left him hanging there. And obviously, if Dom says he does not have sexual relations with that woman, then what did he do wrong? I mean, there's a lot of guys too that are also taking Dom's side. I mean, at the end of the day, he looked, maybe there's a little bit of touching, but
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. Didn't the initial the inception of what the Judgment Day was going to be, the reason why Dom turned to the quote unquote dark side of the Judgment Day, was because it was the family that he wanted. The family was going to support him. Damian Priest, by holding that information from him and basically starting to act like Rey Mysterio, and you saw Don mention a couple times, like, yeah, you're starting to act like my dad. That's not a good sign. And the fact that mommy has been incommunicado with him and just basically talking to Damian Priest and other members of the Judgment Day, well, basically just Damian, you might feel a little bit abandoned here. Where were they when he needed them? And this is going to be an interesting scenario, not only in terms of where they go on with Rhea Ripley, where Liv Morgan is right now, and where she continues on in terms of her just encompassing this whole story and developing herself as a character. But this is also an evolution of Dirty Dom as well. Like you said, right? Rhea, he's very submissive with her. He's dominant force here. He's Daddy Dom to Liv. Now it's the question of not necessarily like what these two are fighting for, because we know what Liv and Rhea are fighting for, but what does Dom want now? That's going to be the question. What decision does he make? We'll find out eventually.
We will find out, and we might find out as soon as Monday Night Raw. So the weekend was packed. WWE in Mexico, but also the debut. And we were wondering, okay, Stephanie Vaquer will show up on NXT. Kind of was given away that information by Shawn Michaels when he welcomed her and kind of gave the news that she would end up in NXT brand. And we thought she'd debut soon, but we find out this weekend that she was going to debut in Mexico, in where everything kind of got her kick started as far as CMLL, her leaving CMLL abruptly in New Japan and then making her debut for WWE in Mexico, which was a good deal by WWE. Listen, they're not going to miss an opportunity to do so. So she makes her debut this weekend for WWE, and obviously it's a big deal. They obviously made it a big deal. They kind of had Damian Priest, wish her well. You had Bayley, Liv Morgan retweet when WWE shot the video of her coming in. Basically, a lot of eyes were on her debut, and she took on Isla Dawn, and it was a good, match, good introduction, and she, gave her speech in front of her fans. So it was a good way to get it started. And listen, all I'm going to say is I think it's going to be a huge deal. I think NXT women's roster is going to be stacked with the people that are going to come in. Obviously, we'll get into that as well, who's going to come in, but she's just one of the names that's going to be part of this heading into the fall, into the maybe latter of the summertime. But it's going to be a great roster. It's going to be a deep roster for NXT. And I'm going to tell you this. We talked about this before again, so make sure you go back to the archives, and it's last episode. There is a woman's another woman's evolution probably in the works to me, and there's going to be probably got to be a women's show somewhere, because WWE is about making money. And when you have a roster like this and you're going to introduce new titles, definitely to me there is an idea. There's got to be something brewing that a women's show could be in the works.
Could be in the works. I think it all depends on the rumors we've been listening to. We've been hearing about the fact that there could be another evolution. I think after the first one, everyone was like, okay, well, we did one. I mean, that's it. I mean, it wasn't a big draw as much as there was a lot of anticipation to have an all women's. At that point, it was pay per view, not a premium live event. And so now you could, make the argument for it. I think depending on the success of that will come to the realization if you do want to have a show separately for the women, though. I think it's fine the way it is right now. Granted, there's always the ability for more TV time for people because it's limited whether you're doing Raw, SmackDown, or NXT, right? But at the same time, you need to have that dynamic in the show. It can't just be all male talent, all female talent to the point where, again, we could talk about this down the road, but until that another evolution actually presents itself, that's where we can actually make the bid for, okay, does a separate show now warrant this roster, which we've talked about in the beginning, whether it's NXT or the main roster. It is stacked in terms of depth right now, and it's ridiculous. I've never seen it this full of talent, yet we're still waiting for Charlotte Flair to come back, and the stories she could tell with, whether it be a SmackDown or Raw roster, NXT roster, it's amazing right now. So, yeah, I think you mentioned in the beginning too, right? Just WWE's on fire right now. It's hot, and right now they're just riding that momentum into the summer and then obviously into the fall.
And you talk about people also that are taking a hiatus, like a Becky Lynch. She's got to look at these signings and she's got to be like, wow, man, this is going to be a competitive field. To me, this is where the best women's division is going to be, and where, if it's not is already, it's going to be. This is where I want to be. So anybody that worries about where Becky Lynch is going, I think that it just, to me, this solidifies the attempt of more attention, more focus to the women. And let's not even mention this too, Natalya Neidhart re-signing with WWE as well. So she is back in the fold, and that's a good thing too to do, because this is somebody that, you couldn't see her really going anywhere else, although she was prepared to field offers. But this is somebody that's WWE as well. So it's glad they could get that done. And if at the end of the day, the people that you end up losing when you had all these free agents, right, is only Ricochet and Donovan Dijak, I think you've done a good job.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at it from a sports perspective too, you want to make sure you acquire enough talent that's worth it in terms of the result of what you're losing. And you're right. If you're doing the math right now and you look at those individuals, and nothing against Dijak and Ricochet are the ones that have left, but sometimes maybe for individuals like them, it's best that they kind of go somewhere else, get more exposure in sense of just having more time pitted on them. But right now, when you look at this roster, from the men to the women to everything that's going on right now, if you're WWE, you're happy with the results you have. You're happy with the roster you have right now. And it's always evolving. It's always continuing in terms of, it's a business. So time's going to be limited. And what do you do with the time you're allotted to? And this is another thing that I feel is different, as opposed to when people would get TV time. Sometimes it felt like it was taken for granted to a certain extent, or like they would just waste time on some type of comedy skit that made no sense. It was more of just sophomore humor, as they call it. Right now, it really feels that every individual, whether you're watching Raw or SmackDown or NXT, when they have that TV time, they are that is so valuable to them. You could tell from what they go out there and in terms of the performance they put out, whether they succeed or fail. It's it's neither here nor there. But it's so important that they're making the most of it, and that's why every bit of talent is stepping themselves up right now.
No doubt about it. And again, this is something that we're going to take a look at and probably talk about down the road. But it's just something that right now, very excited for the future of what's going on with the company. And like we keep saying, it is absolutely hot. And one thing I'm going to get off my chest here, Trendsetter, I told you this off air, is like this whole aura definition, right? Before it was like the it factor. I think that was an old phrase back in 2023, and now 2024, everyone's got the aura. And this is why I find it just sometimes hard to just put up with some of these people on social media, because like everything's got to be something, like whether a song hits hard as AF or whether it's an aura with these. Just like stop making up stuff and just like let it be, man. Like just have the it factor. Why do we have to define everything? Like everything was the forbidden door, or everything was like this and that, and it's just tough to take, man. And that's why sometimes I'm glad that we don't take part in that stuff, or we have those kind of discussions, because it's just such a. I mean, I just shake my head sometimes at some of these people that post and that are allowed to post stuff in the IWC community, because who cares what or whatever. Like, stop trying to change. Just trying to change the definition of something, you know what I mean? It's just so freaking, just drives me insane.
Yeah, I know, but listen, the same goes for me too. But sometimes I just need to ignore it because that's just the, as I call, the flavor of the week, the flavor of the month, whatever. It's whether it be a term, whether it be a type of direction that certain people, like you mentioned before, within the wrestling internet community, want to use to depict what the narrative is. It is what it is. You and I, we just basically try to judge or talk about things that are currently happening right now. If they are that it factor or this aura, as everybody's talking about, just try to ignore it, because sometimes it does get kind of annoying, or just kind of get overblown sometimes.
Now, this weekend, obviously waking up on Saturday morning, all the events happened in Japan. Not only were there stuff going on in Mexico City, but in Japan, we had Pro Wrestling Noah and Marigold, and they had their events. And it was obviously a highlight to see AJ Styles back in Japan. And the first thing that I noticed with AJ Styles, and I saw the footage because listen, it was a long night Friday to catch that stuff early in the morning to me. Listen, I'm a different Jeff than I was in 2017 when New Japan and Wrestle Kingdom, and I would be able to at least tolerate staying up at 2 in the morning. I can't do that anymore. So I watched the highlights like everybody did on social media. And to see AJ Styles in Japan back there after, being gone for a long time, and just seeing the origins of where, to me, AJ Styles became that guy, that go-to guy, and his history. It felt awesome. And to see that AJ Styles, that New Japan AJ Styles, that AJ Styles from Japan, God, I missed that. He doesn't look like he's missed a beat, by the way, either, too. So this idea that he's washed, or this idea that Father Time is I mean, listen, I'll miss him when he's gone, and it's his choice and his given choice to decide when he wants to leave. But the guy still got it, man, and he's an all-time great.
I can't disagree with anything you just said here. An all-time great, legend, bona fide Hall of Famer, whether it be a TNA or WWE, right? No question about that. Hall of Famer, all those accolades that he's had in his career, and he's basically done it all. But the same thing too. Yeah, I'll miss him when he's gone. But as much as he's an interview said that the end is closer than the beginning, it's approaching faster than ever before. What I want to do more than anything now is not necessarily anticipate what final match you might be in or when the end might be. It's just for a lot of individuals watching this right now, so guys, just enjoy the ride. Enjoy it. Enjoy every single time AJ Styles performs, every single time he comes on TV, because you never know when it's going to be the last time. And I don't think he's lost a step. I don't think he ever did. He's done a great job of showcasing the fact that, yes, although he's mentioned physically he can't do the stuff he used to do, if you're watching it, you could never tell, because he's just that good right now. So yeah, AJ Styles is, to me, one of the best of all time. And to me, we've been fortunate enough to watch him in his career, especially at this stage with Japan, where basically he was going through this evolution of trying to figure out who he was, because yes, he was the phenomenal one, but kind of was getting stale. He needed to go to New Japan to re-energize his career, which led him to WWE. And well, as they say, the rest is history, right?
And when I looked at that though, like I wish we'd get that AJ Styles. I wish we'd get that move set. I know it's a different style, the American style and Japanese style, but I really wish we'd get that move set where that sequence that he did with Marufuji. I just wish we got that. And I think if we would have gotten that in the Nakamura match for WrestleMania, I think that would have been a much better match. But we just gotta. I don't know. I mean, it kind of was like a slow kind of moving match, whatever. I think this kind of style, I think that would have really served best for that WrestleMania match with him and Nakamura. I think everyone expected that to be New Japan, and we didn't get that. And I think maybe they just want to be different and they didn't want to compare anything to New Japan. They want to do their own style. But don't you think it would have been best to have that kind of style match? Because that Marufuji match, and of course AJ Styles was successful and defeated Marufuji in this matchup this past weekend. But wouldn't you think that that moveset would have been better displayed at WrestleMania for that Nakamura match?
Yeah, it would have. But honestly, we could say, yeah, if this was it, or if they had done this, what you mentioned before, different regime back then for that WrestleMania match between him and Nakamura, so probably wouldn't have worked out. Could it continue here? Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing about AJ though. Depending on whatever style you're talking about, he still makes it work. So, granted, yes, of what we saw in Japan could transfer itself over here, that'd be great. But we all know what the WWE style is. It's not really about that too. So unfortunately, we're probably not going to get that. We might get glimpses of it, but I mean, there's a reason why they're different promotions. There are reasons why they're different shows here. So to that extent, I would like to see it, but I don't think that's what WWE's plan is in terms of, AJ at the stage of his career can keep doing that every single night to the end. Who knows? Maybe it's best to get sporadic moments of that so that when it does happen, you appreciate it more.
And then not only did we see AJ, but also IYO SKY was in action and for Marigold, and she successfully won her match. And again, it's that IYO SKY though. Again, it's that that aura, that vibe that she got when she was in Japan, her first time in 6 years performing there. And definitely was good to see, man. It's good to see this whole. It's just weird, man, to even think. I mean, I had people on social media telling us, did AJ quit WWE? Was his contract over? Because they didn't think that somebody under contract from WWE could do these things. And we cleared it up on social media and told them, no. This is the forbidden door. This is the forbidden door that has opened up, that Triple H has opened. Because how great is it to see all these matches, man? And when we'll get to the TNA partnership, where obviously TNA, they're sold out for their event coming up, Slammiversary. They're sold out, 4,000 seats sold out. I'm not saying it all has to do with the NXT partnership, but don't you think that all these eyes, when you're put on a global product like WWE, it should help everyone? And I think it's doing that, and it's just a great thing.
It helps everyone when you're able to collaborate with individuals, other groups, and in this case, other promotions. I think it helps everyone too. And I think the biggest thing is always the egos in terms of, oh, how does this make my promotion look? How does it make yours? Everyone always wants to be the top one. I think again, I'll say it to the cows come home where everybody gets bored with it, right? But it's true. Under this new regime, under this new leadership, that's really not a factor. WWE has made it perfectly clear, especially Triple H, who's head of creative, is that WWE has always been known as a global brand and they want to continually be global. And what better way is to just collaborate with promotions in Japan, promotions in Mexico, promotions overseas, and in this scenario, working with promotions inside the States, which is TNA, which I think has been an amazing job on both respects. Because when you look at what WWE is doing with TNA in terms of this partnership, it doesn't seem like it's being rushed. It seems like both sides are trying to get the best out of it. And sometimes in partnerships like this, it's always who's getting the short end of the stick. It doesn't feel that way here. And could the sold out event Slammiversary be a direct result of it? It could be. It's fair to say. I would say yes, because when you have your stars on WWE programming and more people are seeing it, it's going to draw more eyes to say, you know what? Who is this Joe Henry? Who is this Jordan Grace? They're TNA guys, TNA stars. I want to watch TNA. Where can I find it? And that's what leads to the fact that more people are going to be watching Slammiversary probably than ever before.
You talked about it last week. You said it, that guys like a Joe Hendry, guys that you normally wouldn't see or you're curious about, besides just watching him on NXT. I want to see the guy that helped Trick Williams defeat Ethan Page, at the previous NXT taping. Where can I see his work? And Sean Spears, like where can I see this guy? And it's going to be TNA. Oh, TNA. And I'm not going to lie. Some people are like, oh, it's still around, because they just don't know. And they're going to find it. And if you're a wrestling fan, you're going to find it if you like it. And you're like, wow, this guy's really good, whatever. And next time you can see him is probably going to be Slammiversary. And I think it's working out. I think it's a healthy partnership that's only going to grow better. And I'm pretty sure too, it's an element of surprise, right? Who else is going to show up from NXT? And Slammiversary is going to be coming up this weekend. And congratulations to TNA. I mean, congratulations to them, and hope everything. I mean, I hope they have a tremendous show, and we'll definitely talk about Slammiversary. We're going to have to talk about Slammiversary now, because they've given us no choice but to speak of it. So that's tremendous for them as well. And then again, IYO SKY successfully beats her opponent Utami Hiyashishida. So that was a dream.
God bless you for saying that last name, man. I'm even looking at it, and I couldn't even try to say that last name, Jeff. So kudos to you. I've never given you credit, but I'll give you credit there, man. When it comes to pronouncing these names, especially these Japanese names, I mean, I couldn't say Joe Henry correctly last week. Heaven forbid, saying this. So God bless you, man.
Stay with me, Joe Hendry. Hendry. And so she made her dream come true fighting IYO SKY. That was a dream match for her. And then also, one thing we'll discuss here is also Julia came up short against Saray in the to crown the first ever Marigold Women's Champion, and obviously she was quite emotional. It was a good match, maybe a match of the year in the women's field as we talk about 2024, and she came up short. Obviously, her time in Marigold is winding down. You can tell she was emotional at the press conference, because now, obviously, NXT is in her future. And we were talking about who's coming. That is somebody that's going to end up in NXT. And when you take a look at Roxanne Perez, when you take a look at Stephanie Vaquer, and you take a look at Julia coming in, holy crap. And you're talking about women's division getting deeper and deeper. And that's why it's possible now, with introduction of more women's titles that they're going to introduce, maybe, possibly, there could be really an opportunity to have a women's show or just another women's PLE. So are you excited about the looming how we get the looming coming? She's coming to NXT. Are you excited about her arrival? There you go, arrival. I couldn't get it. Are you excited about her impending arrival to NXT?
Oh yeah, ever since the signing happened, I've been looking forward to it. But it's like anything, right? Sometimes more anticipation. Now, granted, there was an injury. It's why the introduction didn't happen soon enough, right? It would have happened already. But sometimes creating more anticipation creates more excitement, creates more level of not wanting to wait any longer for it to happen. It's going to happen. So I'm definitely excited for this women's roster. I'm excited for the mere fact that talents that you just mentioned right now are having an opportunity that maybe before in the past wasn't really an option there, because most individuals, especially, I mean, hey, listen, we've talked about it at length. That most individuals, whether you come from Japan, Mexico, just internationally, they don't have such a good track record when they're WWE. It really seems like that page has been turned to a certain extent, and these individuals, and I'll say one of the exceptions was Asuka, where she was just so dominant that it didn't matter that she couldn't speak the language. They just wanted to see her perform because of this aura about her.
There you go.
Exactly, right? Fitting to use that word. I think that's what we're getting now. We're getting scenarios where, I mean, just talking about TNA, right? We're talking about, not too long ago, you and I, especially off air, and it's funny, Jeff and I usually have our best conversations off air, that it just seemed like when there was the monopoly where it was just WWE, you would hear rumblings, and especially people who are diehard hardcore fans, like, oh, what's going on in Japan? What's going on over here? What's going on over there? I mean, TNA was still always there, but always going through these evolutions of what they were as a company, right? But now, when you look at it, stepping back of everything that's available right now, if you're a performer and, covering it like we are right now, my goodness, there's so many ways to go from anywhere in any direction, whether it be international or whether it be in the States, that you have now the ability where people who even aren't die hardcores or people who aren't even well known and versed in the world of pro wrestling can look at this and be, wow, this is interesting. And I actually want to take a look at this. Who is this individual? They're coming from Japan. They have wrestling there. So it's like the same effect that TNA Slammiversary had working with WWE. WWE right now is so white hot, unbelievably, that it's just going in so many different directions. And to quote what Triple H said after WrestleMania, like, you haven't seen anything yet. I have never recalled, Jeff, any time under any regime that after WrestleMania it has been this much intense, impactful storyline, in depth of, like, we're talking about it every single week, not just on the air, but we're talking about it between you and I. I've just never witnessed this before, so this is brand new for me. I've never been in a scenario where, wow, we're talking about TNA, we're talking about New Japan, we're talking about promotions in Japan, promotions in Mexico, we're talking about AEW, we're talking about WWE. It's just crazy, man, in terms of everything out there. And I've always said it's a great time being a wrestling fan.
It is a great time, and you talk about the show qualities too, that everything is must watch. SmackDown again was must watch, and as we head into talking about SmackDown, and we talk about the whole Bloodline angle, and it just got a little bit more clear as it's officially unofficial. It's gonna be Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa for the championship, and Cody will defend it, and it's that looming presence of when Roman Reigns will return, because now he has made it perfectly clear, Solo Sikoa, that, hey, Roman Reigns, if you want some, come get some, because he's, as his song says, Solo is taking it all. He's got his bloodline, he's got his enforcer, he's got his right hand man, and Tangaloa.
Yeah.
He has his group, and it's gonna be interesting to see the impending arrival of Roman Reigns. Most likely he'll be there before SummerSlam, and that place is just going to go crazy when he returns. This whole Bloodline thing with Randy Orton kind of setting up the possible reasoning why he turns on Cody Rhodes. But you also see that interjection too. While Randy is defending Cody, he's eyeing that title, and the Viper is going to show his true colors once the time is ready. Once it makes sense for Randy, that's when Randy's going to strike. And I would love to see this matchup at WrestleMania, because it seems like they're prolonging it. We're not getting it at SummerSlam, but I think that this matchup, the long-term storytelling that Triple H is on, I think this is definitely something that we could see at WrestleMania.
Yeah, we definitely could see it, and you see the Easter eggs out there. It's been going on for so long now, where you're thinking, wow, even people mentioned before when Cody became champion, wow, imagine if he had a storyline with Randy Orton, the whole student versus teacher, and the history they've had in terms of what they dealt with when they were in Legacy together, and how Randy Orton was more of a big brother, kind of showed Cody the way, and him taking him under his wing, basically, right? And now for him to tell Cody that I'm got your back, I'm always gonna be there behind you, and for this to happen out of Randy, it just makes a scenario even clearer that when Randy does come back, who knows, maybe immediately after, maybe once he does come back a little bit afterwards, but now he has reason now, not only to obviously legitimately want the title, because again, you're not in this industry if you don't want the championship, right? But now have a legitimate gripe of Cody saying, "Hey, listen, I stood out there for you. I was taking hits for you, and what have you done for me lately? You never gave me a title shot. You never once said that I would give an opportunity." It kind of writes itself there too. So definitely looking forward to that.
I like the aspect where I think, what did he get me for being a nice guy for Randy?
Yeah.
He got me laid out once again from the bloodline. So I think that, to me, is going to be just however they do it. I know they'll do it right. I have confidence that they'll do it right. But just he's going to break Cody's heart, because you could tell Cody loves Randy. He's saying, take me. He
Take me instead.
loves Randy, and Randy Orton is going to break Cody's heart, and that is going to be cinematic. That is going to be pure. Again, another term that they're making up now. Pure cinema is what we're going to end up getting between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. But still, Solo and Cody, that's where they're going to go, and we're just waiting for the impending arrival of the Tribal Chief.
It's amazing how we're talking about Randy and Cody and Solo, Cody continuing on with the bloodline, Randy's story with the bloodline, Roman Reigns' possible return. When's it going to happen? It's going to be before SummerSlam, after SummerSlam, during SummerSlam. Again, I don't recall ever once having all these kind of things, these stories connect together so effortlessly in a way, because again, you can go in so many directions here, and you can't be wrong, as opposed to maybe in the past there'd be a singular direction where, okay, well, we know this is going. Here you don't know. You can go so many different directions, and in my opinion, neither one's the wrong one to take.
Also, the return of Jimmy Uso. When's he going to come back? Anytime now, he's cleared. When is the wise man coming? So there's so much going on, as well as this whole thing between LA Knight and Logan Paul. Are we going to see it at SummerSlam? Because Logan Paul has been called out to defend that U.S. Championship in his hometown of Cleveland. So we'll see if we're going to get that as well. So I'm interested to see that. That SummerSlam card, which looks to be about 8 matches or 9 matches, it's getting pretty clear where they're going as well. And, of course, Nia Jax and Bayley, too, now with the whole idea that Tiffany Stratton is looking to cash that Money in the Bank in. She almost did this Friday night on SmackDown. And so that dynamic, too, gets added there. Is Nia Jax going to win only to have Tiffany Stratton maybe turn it on her? Because Nia Jax is now no fool. She sees what's going on here. To buy that excuse that Tiffany was just asking the referee what the rules were, I mean, Nia's got to be now weird about this.
Come on. It's legitimate here because Tiffany, she's still new in the business.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't have the track record or the legacy that Nia Jax has in terms of the knowledge you have in this industry. So why is it wrong for her to just double check to make sure? Because who knows, in a situation
I'm not buying it.
similar to this, what do you mean not buying it? If you believe it, then that means you buy it. Because, hey, Tiffany was just making sure, because when she does cash it in, she doesn't want to make a mistake. As you can tell what happened with Drew McIntyre, the second you delay, a split second can cost you a championship, and Tiffany doesn't want that to happen to her.
Of course, it's going to be so good to see, of course, again, when that happens, again, that storyline as well. But the matches are coming up, and they're looking, Damian Priest and Gunther. They're gonna face off this Monday night, and have that face-to-face encounter too. So they're gonna start building that. So the SummerSlam card is starting to take form. You're starting to see it. A few more matches might be added, but everything's gonna start developing, I believe, this Monday night. So that was SmackDown. Another good episode of SmackDown too, as we all wait for the Tribal Chief. Then we go to Wednesday Night Dynamite, AEW Dynamite, and of course we're getting ready for All In, and we're getting ready for Wembley, and Bryan Danielson wins the Owen Cup, and he's going to take on Swerve, and then we had Mariah May turn on Toni Storm. She's going to go to All In and take on Toni Storm, so that's going to be interesting to see that. Well done, well storyline telling as well. But I mean, just Dynamite though, getting ready for this whole Will Ospreay and match that he's going to have with MJF at this coming Dynamite 250. Do you think these matches that we're seeing, these are quality matches? We're just getting them for free. Do you think it's although we've heard that this WB deal is going to get done, do you think it's any kind of pressure on Tony to deliver in the next few weeks as the negotiations, hey, they say they're going well, everything's nice, everything's going well, but do you think there's an urgency by Tony Khan to give you these big time matches for free as we head into All In? Because the TV deal, it's still not, the ink is not dry. There is still no pen to paper. So do you think Tony's got a little bit of pressure on him to deliver in the next few weeks?
Listen, I don't believe anything until it actually pens on paper right now in terms of that deal, right? So people could say all they want until it's actually officially happened. We don't know. It's still up in the air, right? Do I think he has pressure on him? I think right now Tony's feeling pressure, although he won't admittedly say it, I feel, and he'll walk around as if everything's fine, which is fine. That's his demeanor, and he has every right to feel that way and try to project that to the roster. But I think there is pressure for the fact that he wants to keep people interested. I think this whole story of Mariah May and the whole thing with MJF now coming in, I think it's a scenario where, yeah, it creates intrigue and people want to see Will Ospreay and MJF. Do I think it's worth putting on there? No, but in this scenario right now, I think you got to put everything out there. You got to put all out there, even if it's free. I mean, we saw scenarios in terms of WCW when they put Hulk Hogan and Goldberg in the Georgia Dome for free, probably the biggest moneymaker you could have made, right? And you did it for free. Long-term wise, I don't think you can think long-term right now. Did they hurt WCW for not doing that? Yeah. I think what AEW is doing right now is they just I kind of relate AEW to a certain degree like the UFC. Sometimes if you watch other programming, other pro wrestling, like, oh, we want this match, and they continually tease you on it. But what AEW tries to do is they try to just give the fans what they want. You want to see Will Ospreay? You want to see MJF? we're going to give it to you on Dynamite, or we're going to give it to you on Collision, or we're going to give it to you on whatever the show might be, right? Or even at a pay-per-view. I think that's cool. I think that's exciting for the fans. But the only problem is that when you keep doing something like that, you kind of run out of things to give them. And so that's why storytelling is so important. That's why, again, listen, AEW has a lot of work to do in terms of doing that, but I think they're on the right path now in terms of the stories we just talked about, Marie May and Tony Storm. A story that can be told right there between MJF and Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay, please get a haircut. God, please do that. I can't stand him talking and having that hair combed the way it is. But I think they're getting there now. I think for the most part, even when you look at a guy like Swerve Strickland, now I feel after the whole altercation with Will Ospreay, man, what direction are we going with Swerve, right? So it creates interest in there too. I think there's pressure there, but I think it's pressure that Tony's putting on himself because he wants to keep the fans engaged. He wants to keep them happy, not necessarily about the deal for TV.
Oh no, I think yeah. Listen, he's about the fans, but there's a little bit of there's a little bit of an urgency to get this with this TV deal and get it finally squared off away and get it done before the end of the year. And I'm because listen, if they don't get anything done, where are they going to go? So I think they are feeling the pressure of getting that TV deal done. Yes, they are about the fans, but I'm going to say that this is more about the TV deal, and we're going to get Okada and Swerve too on Wednesday night, the 250 show. I don't know.
But answer me this question though: if you're not worried about the fans of getting them to come in and give ratings and spike them up, or having them fill the seats in the arenas, how can you convince a TV company to sign a contract with you if you're not handling that first?
Attendance, though. I mean, you're talking about the fans to watch. You want the fans to watch and tune in. You want the ratings. And I don't understand. And I don't understand.
Well, that's what I just said. You want ratings. You want people in the building to give a better illusion of this place is a place to be.
That's why you put on those matches. That's
what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's why Tony is more concerned with that, because he feels if he does this, then the contract's going to get signed because they're going to see that, wow, people are tuning into this.
But the thing is, though, I think that the ratings because to me, obviously, me and you are talking about the ratings, right? We're talking about that. But I don't know what WB is seeing where there's nobody else in a rush to sign them. There's nobody else that's like, oh, man, we got to get on top of WB because we got to steal this property. So I just don't know. I don't know what kind of deal Tony is going to get when there's no other competition for this product. Now, is the content that enticing for WB that, let's take a show of Rampage and Collision that get 275,000 viewers. Let's rush and pay them more than we are paying them for this current deal. So to me, that's what I'm puzzled. But is there an urgency for Tony to get this deal done because where else are we going to shop this product? Right. So yeah. I guess it all coincides together and it goes hand in hand. We got to get the fans. We got to get the ratings. So that's why we got to give them this and deliver this. But I also think, too, that, hey, where else are we going to sign? What are we going to do? And if I'm WB, am I really going to go above and beyond what I'm paying now for this product? Is the content that important to them? I mean, if they're losing the NBA, maybe it is a little bit more important. But I don't know. To me, if I'm WB,
setting factor right there. If they lose the NBA, then they want something else to kind of substitute for it. Not that it would replace it, but they want something.
Now, the fans always win because they're going to get these matches for free. They're not going to have to pay $50. And what's the thing people grave about? I don't want to put $50 in to watch All In or another pay-per-view. I don't want to do that. So they're the ones that win at the end of the day getting these matches. We'll see if the ratings coincide. I mean, I would really expect if I don't get 800,000 people in the next few weeks, then, I mean, okay, there's something going on here because if, these two matches are enticing and I don't think we're going to get I think we're getting matches. I don't think we're getting anything in interruptions or anything like that. I think we're going to get matches. So we'll see. Will the Okada finally show up? Will this guy that was this killer, this best bout machine in Japan, will he show up eventually now and give Strickland a good match? We'll find out as Wednesday Night Dynamite kicks off. And it's going to be an interesting show. The 250. Do you celebrate 250 or are you like 100, 200, 300? Is 250 to you a milestone?
Personally, no. But I think ain't it AEW, you take what you can get right now. You're trying to make everything, honestly, and whether it be Tony or creative, I think AEW right now is trying to make everything so important to, as you and I have talked about, Jeff, in this business, perception is reality. If you're perceiving something as this important, and I hope people don't get mad at me when I say this, but when you talk about like the Owen Hart Foundation Memorial, trophy in the tournament, right? you have to perceive it and give the illusion that it's that important. That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to make it by, at the end, putting a title on the line at All In, a title shot on the line. I think that's what they're doing. 250 to me isn't huge.
I guess it's a quarter century. We celebrate 25, celebrate 50. So
Yeah.
I just for a show 250.
300th episode, 400th, 500th episode. Yeah, I could see 250. Okay, I guess if you guys want to make it important, we'll tune in to watch, because in terms of how they're trying to pid 250 as a number that's important to them is the reason why they're putting these matches on for free.
Exactly. So again, but it's going to be the match quality. You can't go wrong. If you're going to tune back to AEW Dynamite this Wednesday, is a perfect time. We'll wrap up with NXT from this past Tuesday. And honestly, we talked about the women that are coming in. We were talking about as they head to the next event, the Great American Bash in August. I mean, right now, NXT, their ratings went up a little bit higher than the previous week. And now we see Joe Henry involved. We see him getting a victory, which is the biggest thing that I saw out of this week was he gets a victory on their platform. A TNA guy. When did you think you were ever going to see that? So, and that is a positive for TNA, and it's going to do well now heading into their Slammiversary pay-per-view. And who would have thought, man, a TNA guy gets a victory? You wouldn't have seen this 5 years ago, 3 years ago. It's a good sign for the partnership. I think it's really well done. I think so far so good. But that was the biggest takeaway that I got from this week. And good for them. Good for TNA and good for NXT.
Good for both. And for just focusing on NXT here, I think what NXT is going through now under Shawn Michaels' umbrella, his vision, in collaboration with everyone, like Triple H, and they all kind of think alike and have the same mindset on this too. It's that you're even seeing NXT now going through an evolution where we're trying to introduce individuals like, let's say, an Ethan Page now, who's the face of your brand now, NXT, and to see maybe the untapped potential that unfortunately we didn't get to see other places, including AEW. So that's exciting. Where we go now in terms of the women's roster with the with all the rosters as much depth as there is now. For the men, tag team division, all this stuff, and I think right now it's going through its own evolution in collaboration with TNA, which I think right now I would say this partnership is it's been the best partnership I've ever seen when two companies try to work together like that. So we had Roxanne Perez defeat your champion Jordan Grace. Granted it wasn't for the TNA Knockouts Championship. Now we have Joe Henry. Have people believe in him on NXT television being one of your guys, and then that works its way over to TNA. So I think right now they're 1 for 1. I think they're showing, more importantly than anything, too, I think, I'm not an expert in business here, Jeff, but correct me if you might think I'm wrong here, but I think in any partnership of whatever you do, there has to be a level of trust, saying, listen, we're both going to be helping each other out. And I think, with the partnership with WWE, what they're doing with NXT and TNA, I think both of these are working tremendously. NXT right now, I wouldn't say they're in the position they were when we first had the inception under Triple H, and it was kind of building to these, these big events that were leading up to it. I think right now what you're seeing is they're starting to kind of get their feet together in terms of where they want to go, but they have a roster that can get them, I feel, to that next level. So that's the exciting part about NXT.
And why wouldn't you want to hang on to anything that WWE is doing right now? Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that in some way or some manner, to be aligned with WWE, to be involved in the same sentence, in the same paragraph, in the same just even room, in the same building with that word, with those 3 letters right now? Why wouldn't you? And it was a perfect time for TNA to want to start this partnership off. And I think that it's going well, and it's just in the beginning stage. So we'll see what happens going down the road. But for now, Slammiversary sold out. Right now, people are getting to know these TNA stars, and it's going well. And I'm excited to see also what happens with the partnership with WWE and these Japanese markets and with the Mexican markets too, because there is business there for WWE to make in Mexico too. The fans love it. And so we'll see what happens there. But it's all in all, this week of wrestling has just shown you why wrestling is on this huge momentum right now and this huge upswing, and it's just going to get better and better. 2025 is going to be better than 2024. And I'm excited about that. Although
that's always the goal. You want the next year to always be better and surpass the following year. And if you just mention one thing real quick, you mentioned Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton possibly as a main event for a championship match at WrestleMania. Dude, if we get that, that's already making WrestleMania, giving it even more anticipation than we had at 40. And at 40 was considered the biggest of all time. Now they got to top that, and they're off to a good start.
Off to a amazing start. And remember, guys like Cena, The Rock, Roman, CM Punk, God willing, the injuries, right? They're going to be there for 2025. So it's going to be an even more momentous year for WWE. But I will live in the moment, stay in the present, and look forward to tomorrow and the next day, and just enjoy this summer ride that we're being taken on by just everything going on in pro wrestling. So exciting week, man. You got Monday Night Raw, you got AEW Dynamite. I'm looking forward to watching those matches. Of course, I head to All In too, and Slammiversary is coming up, and we'll definitely discuss that too. So we will be back. I love doing these two shows, man. I think it's been good. We'll see how it goes, but wrapping up the weekend too, because there was a lot of stuff going on. So we're glad we could do that for you guys as well. So Trendsetter, man. Listen, follow us on all our social media. Give us a like at Give Us a Shot Network, where you can find the HSP. Hit that notification bell so whenever you see HSP, you're aware of when a new episode hits. And also join us on all our podcast platforms. If you can't watch us, make sure you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on iHeart. We are everywhere. HSP is there as well. And again, guys, follow us on social media at High Spot Podcast. Follow us on the IG because that thing is blowing up as well. So we want to hear your feedback and your comments. And we like to also thank all the sites that have been partnering up with us too on the IG as well. Really like that collaboration as well. So even HSP is collaborating. So that's awesome news. And that's it. Gonna be an exciting week. Trendsetter starts off with Monday Night Raw, and exciting times, brother.
Exciting times, and they're nowhere near set to dwindle down. I mean, it's every week it gets more and more. You get more busy than we've ever been before, and you know what? I'm not going to complain about it because I'd rather do that than do anything else, to be honest with you. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to the High Spot Podcast. From my tag team partner, Jeff Martin, I'm the Trendsetter, Brian Burke. We are, and always will be, the Jersey Wrecking Crew, no matter where we go, no matter where we're doing the show from. Remember, guys, we do this for one reason, and one reason only. We do this for you since day one, Jeff.
Ish.
The Crew.